Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. This is episode number 74. Today we're going to talk about 116. As usual, we're joined by Phil. Hey, Phil.
Good morning, Rohan. How's it going?
And Vinçon. How are you, Vinçon?
Good, thank you.
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu Casa. Easily and securely access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that also supports the Home Assistant project. Configuration is via the user interface, so no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or any YAML.
Jumping right into it, Hacktoberfest is on. Home Assistant, again, as usual, is participating. I mean, thank you, Devs, because that was, I know we just went through the month of what the heck, and that's pretty, that is a lot of effort on everybody's part there. So it's opt-in only for specific projects and stuff, right?
Which is new. I know they only recently, I think they had a lot of spam projects last year, and I think this year, and I don't know if you guys have been seeing the tweets from Home Assistant, but I think there's one person at DigitalOcean which is responsible for Hacktoberfest, and there is thousands of queries coming in. So I think they've sort of made a decision that, from now on, if a project wants to participate in Hacktoberfest, then you specifically have to opt in, as opposed to previously it was any open source repository on GitHub would be eligible for the Hacktoberfest, but now it is, they've restricted it down. Yeah,
I think I saw that. I saw that tweet from Frank talking about that, right? Yeah. Where it's the one person that's dealing with it, which is,
So, and I think Frank also said it's going to be pretty, I think this year it's because of obviously 2020, we've got COVID, pandemic, a lot of people in lockdown. So this year it was, you can either choose to get a free t-shirt or DigitalOcean will plant a tree on your behalf instead of, sending you a t-shirt around the world and all that, which I kind of like, sort of a greener way to contribute. But I guess, now that they've made it that it's opt-in only, I think I agree with Frank here that, he's sort of like, well, it's great that you've done that, but now this is going to really slow down the participation in Hacktoberfest, because now people, the whole idea of, people just being able to go into any open source project and just put in a pull request and not have to worry about if the maintainer was participating or not. And it's a sort of extra step. Now, if, what if I contribute to project X and they haven't enabled the Hacktoberfest integration yet? Now, will I not get my reward? It's sort of,
right.
Yeah, I think it's
a barrier, right?
Exactly.
To people doing stuff, right? And again, I'm not sure where the motivation is from. Like, is it a cost thing? Is it a which doesn't sound like it is. It sounds like it's more of a effort thing, right? For Hacktoberfest, which is, I mean, I'm still happy that it's a thing, but yeah, you're totally right that it is. It's one more barrier into doing it, right?
Yeah.
But so we'll see where it goes. I mean, this year it sounds like Home Assistant is participating, which is great. So if you want to plant a tree, if you want to get your t-shirt, whatever it is, have a look through Home Assistant, right? That as an option to contribute. Obviously, there's tons of other great open source projects as well. And, if you have the ability to, then great. See if you can contribute to those too, or whatever, right? However you're available, or however you're able to do it.
For pull requests that are not marked as spam, so as long as you're making 4 eligible pull requests to any open source repository, gets yourself a free t-shirt or a tree planted somewhere.
Yes. Any open source that's participating.
Correct, yeah. Yes. All right, 0.116 is here, and Rohan, I don't know about you, but I'm quite relieved that it's not a big release as 0.115. I think an hour and a half last episode, just talking about 0.115 was probably a bit long.
Yeah.
All right, so some new features though, and I'm guessing a lot of also coming out of what the heck. But the first one is that the user and person management are now, basically they've been merged together. So previously you would have the concept of a person, which, can contain device trackers to mark, is that person home, are they away? Also other things like their phone, so is their phone battery dying and all that. And then Home Assistant started rolling out the roles of admins and users. So now you would have users that can log into the Home Assistant front end and perform actions against Home Assistant. Now they're being combined into the one sort of area, and I believe what you can do now, you create a user and a person, and then you can link them together. So now you can have, Rohan as a user in my home and as a person, and I can see, is Rohan home? Is he logged in? Maybe you can't see it. Is he, you can actually assign him a role and all that sort of stuff.
So I thought it used to be like that, because I remember creating a Rohan account and then a Rohan person, and then
you'd have to link them.
Exactly. In the person, I'd have to go in and say, there was an option in the user account to say, hey, this is actually. So
now
this.
You wouldn't have to link them. So now you would just create a user, which would then create a person underneath in Home Assistant.
Yes. And then it just kind of flows through. What I'd love to see actually is when you log into a device, is actually it's going, hey, you're logged into the companion app or into the Mac companion app or something like that, and and be like, hey, do you want to use this device as a device tracker? Right? I think that'd be kind of cool.
Because that would be like it's sort of like a flow, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. I'm hoping that's in the works. I don't know. To me, that just it seems like, hey, okay, this would be kind of cool. And or do you want to overwrite this device? And that actually completely eliminates. I know they're working on a couple of releases ago. They changed how they update or how they track the user in the device, right? So if I log into my iPhone, you're not going to have that Rohan's iPhone 1, Rohan's iPhone 2, whatever issues, especially when you're using the beta app and the primary app, whatever, for any beta testing or things that you're doing. But this is still progress. This is still really nice. So I'll take it.
I quite like that. I think we should, next month, what the heck comes around, you should add that as a suggestion if it's not already.
That's right. That's right. Chromecast Media Player. So now Home Assistant can cast media to Chromecast devices. So if you remember last release, there was a new media browser that got added in, so on and so forth. So now with that media browser, you can actually say, hey, I have this whatever audio video thing that I want to cast across. You can actually directly do that. So it's not casting Home Assistant, right? Which is I guess it's been a while now since that integration has come out where you can cast Home Assistant in, but this is more around the actual media that you're playing. Also, if you were streaming your Lovelace dashboard, which is what I was talking about just now, before that, once your media stream is finished, then the Chromecast will just kind of go back to where it was before. So that's kind of neat.
I quite like that. Like I have, the Echo devices everywhere around the house, and this is one of those things that makes me really jealous of, Google Assistant. I just can't bring myself to have to tell everyone, instead of saying the lovely lady's name, to have to, spit out Hey Google or Okay Google to everyone to get the house to do something. But I do like that, those Google Assistant powered hubs that you see, like I think there's obviously the Nest branded ones, and I think there's even a couple of companies like Asus or Acer or something.
Lenovo.
Lenovo. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they've got some.
They've got some. Like they've got some nice looking ones, right? And to be able to just cast a lovely like Lovelace Home Assistant dashboard to those devices, I wish the Amazon Echo shows could do that, because that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Oh, well, I can only hope one day that Amazon will play nicely. So uploading snapshots for Hass.io is now supported. So I know a lot of people have found it a bit clunky when migrating from one Hass.io installation to another. So, for example, if you've got a Raspberry Pi that's died and you need to restore a snapshot, it'll be a bit clunky. In order to restore a snapshot, you'd have to again go into your configuration, enable Samba, then upload the snapshot to your Raspberry Pi and then restore it. Now there is an option from the Home Assistant user interface that you can just upload your previous snapshot. So you might have it backed up to Google Drive or Dropbox somewhere, grab your latest snapshot, upload it, and it'll install it. So no need to go into YAML files and enable extensions in order to upload it to the Pi first. Yeah,
which is really nice. I think that backup piece has always been a touch, I don't want to call it clunky, but just awkward in Hass.io.
Like it works if you've you just backing up and restoring already, but when you need to onboard a new device, you're sort of back to square one, right? Where you have to go into a configuration and put in something like enable Samba or somehow to get the backup file on there.
Exactly.
It's also easier for a remote installation. For example, at your parents' place or when something crashes, you can just ask them to install the SD card, and then you can upload your remote backup you have for your parents or for your remote office installation.
Totally.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you don't have to then worry about an SSH tunnel and somehow get access to it that way. Yeah.
Because that's easy. The SSH part is pretty easy installing, but then after that you need to enable Home Assistant and log in, etc.
Yep, exactly. MQTT tag scanner. So now Home Assistant can listen to tag scan events that are happening via MQTT. So basically, you can start using other devices. So if you have old Android phones or whatever that are able to scan NFC tags, these tag scan events can be pushed to Home Assistant through that. And the cool thing is this can actually work through Discovery as well for the tag scanning if you use MQTT Discovery. So pretty neat.
I really like it. I'm glad the tag scanner feature that's come in, like people are just really on board with it, and this is like showing, I was like, oh, we can even do like other devices, right? I know way before, like when I first started with Home Assistant, one of the first things I did, right, was I wanted to do my presence detection, right? And I was trying to get my wife on board, like how do we do this when we come home? How do we work out, if I'm doing all this smart stuff, we need to know, who's home. So my original intention was, I had an old Android phone, and I think I used Tasker, and what we would have, I was just running a little web app on the Chrome. I made it so the screen was always on, and it would just have, who was home. And what you would do is you'd grab your NFC tag, scan it to the phone, which would then use Tasker to push, a status update to Home Assistant of, someone's just tagged in, like a check-in app, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Of course, that didn't work when we wanted to leave. It was very hard to get everyone, aka my wife, to tag out. So that eventually got replaced with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. But yeah, it's great to see, these little things. I think recycling old technology, especially old phones. How many phones have you got in a drawer somewhere around that could use this, right?
Yeah, definitely a couple. So
exactly, right. So if you can repurpose those and just use them for places around the house, why not?
Totally.
Logbook now supports selecting multiple entities. So I think this has to be another what the heck entry, but I've always found it, I like the ability to filter entities in the logbook. If I need to find out why the hell did that light turn on at 2 a.m. last night, I didn't do anything. But if I have a bunch of entities, I think this is a nice little feature, filter, show me all the lights in one room as opposed to having to select one at a time.
Also a zodiac integration. If you're into astrology and you can't ever remember what zodiac sign you are, Geminis, you know who you are. Home Assistant, now you can tell you. So that's something neat in there. It's something a little more playful, I think.
Yeah, something random. We really do need to start. Maybe next year we'll have to start a list of those random integrations that Home Assistant adds, and at the end of the year, just tally them up, right?
I love these, but they're I'm sure if for something, if you have whatever, you're a Gemini, you're this, you're that, maybe I don't know if you can even script anything based on that, but
you could pull a website that has these stories about what's your, every month has this special event for your Gemini or for your sign. You can automatically pull them and let your TTS tell it to you.
Yeah. Run it through some kind of AI and say, oh my God, it's good or bad.
don't go outside today.
Duck and cover, or one of the two.
I guess you could also do, I'm guessing each zodiac would have a color, right? I think Pisces being, the ocean would be a blue or something like that, right? So I'm guessing you could also do it based on lights, for the month, the outside lights will be the color of the zodiac or something based on the time of year. Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. All
right. But of course, Home Assistant, there's a million possibilities that you could do with this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's got a unique use case.
There's probably a reason somebody made that integration. So
exactly. Right. All right, breaking changes. Synology integration has moved to the new Synology DSM integration. So there was 2 integrations with Synology. They were sort of doing different things. One of them was, using new technology, probably the new Synology API, but it did have some features missing, like cameras. That's all been upgraded. So now they're at feature parity, which means there's no point having 2 Synology integrations. So if you're using Synology, you'll need to use the Synology DSM integration.
Yeah, and a lot of people I know are using Synology or QNAP or some kind of NAS there. So if you do use Synology, keep an eye out. Alarm Decoder, if you use that service, it's moving to a UI setup. So get rid of your YAML and just set it up through your interface. You don't need to delete the rest of your stuff. Just remove it from one and add it to the other.
I think we talk about it a lot, like integrations moving away from YAML and sort of not liking it. But I am starting to appreciate the UI setup of integrations a lot more.
Oh yeah,
like I feel a bit more. I don't know, like they feel more solid, if that makes sense. Like if I add an integration with YAML, sometimes like I know that whenever I do an upgrade, like to the beta or something, like what parameter has broken. But when I do, now that I've got these integrations that are set in the UI, I like completely forget about them, right? Like I don't have to worry about like a secret key, expiring somewhere. So I don't know. I'm coming around to the user interface of integrations, and I think the device management is much easier as well.
Yeah, the UI has been something where I was always, I guess I was always happy with pieces moving into the UI, right?
Yeah.
I guess the only part where it's like, okay, this is a bit more work, because if I already have something set up and it's moved to the UI, then I have to go in and remove that config. And if it's one where which is what's happening with most things, right? So that to me is like, okay, fine, I guess I'll do it. But outside of that, it's I've never had much of an issue with it. I mean, the flow for me I guess maybe it's just, to me, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it always has. It's just simplicity, right? The less I can go in and muck around in the config, I think, the better. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I'll probably break something. So
yeah.
Yeah, what I like about the new integrations in the front end is more that the overview, because YAML, you get a lot of different or files or different paths or scripts, and now you just have one physical. Well, it looks like a button. You can press it, and there's the integration with all its options, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know exactly where it is. You know exactly what it's doing, right?
Exactly. Well, that was much easier this time.
That's right.
All right. So, Vincent, this is it. This is where we get to pick your brains. So, yeah, I guess maybe if we can start, like, where you sort of started using Home Assistant and how long you've been using Home Assistant for.
Yeah, of course. So, back in 2016, I got a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B. It was just released first quarter of the year, I think. And I had some Philips Hue lights, and I used the standard Philips Hue app, but I didn't really like the way, or I didn't like the possibilities it had. It was a bit limiting. So I thought about something I wanted to do with my Raspberry, and 1+1 made Home Assistant for the first time. But I have zero experience in programming or that kind of stuff. I do like IT and know some things, but YAML, etc., was very hard for me to understand at the beginning. So I actually left it until 0.51. That's the oldest backup I can find currently. So
wow.
and it's not even an official backup. It was just a copy and paste of my config folder.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 0.51, and that was the period that HAS.io was introduced. So that made it like 20 times easier to work with Home Assistant, because you didn't need to know the back end. So that's where it started, and then I wanted to access my Home Assistant from outside, and I started with the add-ons, the Duck DNS add-ons, and all those. That's where I started, and after that, it exploded in a lot of other things next to Home Assistant, like pfSense and Synology NASes, and you want to do backups internally, and I don't like cloud services, so it's a
go down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, a big rabbit hole, so very deep.
It's never-ending rabbit hole.
Yeah, it never ends.
Yeah, that's funny. And this is kind of, I think, just to touch on it, you kind of said this is kind of your first entry into home automation and things like that, or have you done anything with like something anytime before that?
No. This was Home Assistant was except Philips Hue was my that's not really home automation in my point. It's just one thing.
It's just lights.
It's just lights. You only access your lights and you do something with that. But the power of Home Assistant for me was like my first automation was dimming the lights or starting the lights, looking at the sun. So if the sun goes down, put on the lights. If the sun comes up, dim the lights, or etc. And that was the first automation that I did. But yeah. Now YAML is more natural to me than, for example, doing automations in the Home Assistant dashboard. So,
yeah.
So one of the things I really liked when you reached out to us was your use case around your cars and your dad. And I'd just like, can you explain like that setup for everyone? Because I think it's amazing.
Yeah. So first. One of the add-ons that was added was the track car add-on. It's a like a GPS tracker. You can add GPS trackers and you can monitor them on a map. And you can see where they drive. And you can see history and roads, etc. So. But in the same time, I was working with that. Me and my dad bought a hobby car, a Mazda MX-5. In the United States, called a Miata, and so we bought that car, and we share it. But I don't live at his place, and he lives like a 10-minute drive from me. We both live in an apartment, but he doesn't have a place to store the car, but I do, because there are 2 parking garages here underneath the apartment complex. So, but the thing was, when we wanted to drive the car, me, for example, with my girlfriend, or he with my mother, we needed to contact each other to ask, are you going away with the car, or are you planning to take the car? Or maybe it even happened, I walked down thinking he didn't have the car, and I found an empty parking
very
space.
Disappointed.
So one of the reasons I looked then to the tracker component was to put a GPS tracker in the car, and so we can both see where the car is, and, for example, see what the car has done, and just monitor the state of the car. So that's where it started. And my father is like 71. He's not that young anymore. So, but he's pretty good with the iPad. But Home Assistant, giving him a whole Home Assistant dashboard was, he only wanted tracker. So what I did, I tried to expose Home Assistant or the tracker add-on to the internet, and that made a whole other different rabbit hole, because then you need to open ports and you need to give them access to DNS domains, etc. So that took a while for me to work on, and it even was like because before it finally worked, I needed to first learn how to open ports, etc. So I got on the forums and I asked some people how to open the ports and how it works. And one of the comments, and I even think Frank said as one of the advice, if you need to ask these questions, maybe you need to start first and learn how to open ports and what the risks are of opening those ports. So that's when I installed pfSense, and that rabbit hole went very deep. And then after that, I got it worked perfectly now. And so he only uses the Tracker mobile app on his iPad, and he can look where the car is. So after we had that car, he bought a second car himself. So my parents have a car together, and then he bought his own car, and he also put it down here. So now I actually put GPS trackers in all our cars. So in my car, in their car, in his hobby car, and in my car, in our together car. And so now, for example, I can know if he's gone with his own car and my mom is gone with the other car, I have 100% chance that the Mazda is still here. So a bit of calculation, showing me information on where the car is and what's the possibility I can take the car or not.
That's very cool. So you can have like a binary sensor in your home system to say, a car is available for you to use. Yeah, that's great.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and so I have a car. My girlfriend doesn't, so she takes my car sometimes, and then I always know, okay, I do have a backup car.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I guess, and I'm going to be a bit selfish here because, as a host of a podcast that deals with home assistants, sometimes I get to pick people's brains when I want to know something. So tell me more about this tracker integration. I've seen it come out ages ago. So I'm guessing you're using a device that plugs into the OBD port of your car that then connects through your phone's Bluetooth to the internet?
No, it's like a special GPS tracker. You can buy them from AliExpress, and you put a SIM card in it, a mobile SIM card, and then it has a battery bank for like 60 days, and you can configure it by SMS. And so I put a prepaid card in it, and it runs. It's really cheap. So like it spends like €5 a year on data to let me know, give me a 24/7 information about the GPS location. So it uses GPRS, and so that's and I put that behind the dashboard. So it's because it serves a second function, because for some reason someone steals the car, I can still track it. But even if they cut the wire, it has a 60-day battery to find it.
Yeah, because my wife and I were having a discussion maybe just this weekend, actually, because I have the tile trackers and I put one in the car, right? And they're the little Bluetooth trackers, but they require people to have the tile app on their phone in order to ping their location, right? And my wife's like, why doesn't everyone have these in their cars? And it's like, well, they're not that reliable. But this seems like the next level where, you've got the battery backup, you've got its own data connection, right? So you can sort of track it. When I looked into the tracker integration, there was a lot of, you need to run a certain server, or you could pay to use someone else's server. Is there something like that you're using, or are you?
No, it's all local. It's all in the add-on. You can literally run the add-on, and you just need to look at there's an XML config file inside of the, it gets added to your config, your Home Assistant config, and you can choose the protocol that matches your GPS tracker. So for example, I use 2 different trackers, both of the same company, but a different generation. And so I uncommented those 2 protocols, and then you just need to, I can use my phone to SMS the settings to the GPS tracker, and after that it keeps sending its information to that IP address, etc. So it's all local.
Wow, that's very cool.
Well, the GPS tracker is of course not local, but the tracker is fully local.
Yeah, that's
really neat.
Yeah, it's
I like
really
those
easy.
SMS. Like, it doesn't seem to. I guess what's the update frequency like on it though? Is it like maybe it'll send its location 30 seconds?
Yes. I can live. If my dad tells me I'm coming up to my house, I can just open Tracker on my phone or on my PC, and I can see him coming around the corner.
And a 60-day battery life using.
If it's not 60 days if you keep driving. If you drive, it sends, because it has a shock sensor in the GPS tracker, so it only sends data when it's driving, and when it's not, then it's 60 days. And after I've been using one GPS tracker without putting it on because it has it just plugs into your USB charger, and it has been running for 2.5 weeks without dropping the battery, and nearly daily driving. So
that's smart. So could you have it plugged into the car permanently, like to use the car's battery?
Yeah. So what I did, you have 2 options. The first option is to directly attach it to the battery, but then you want to, of course, secure it with I don't know the English word, zekering. It's like a fuse. The fuse. So you need to fuse it, of course. And the problem is you drain the battery if you don't use the car. Yeah. So what I actually did, I bought a small fuse box splitter. And you can put it in the fuse box behind, for example, your cigarette lighter or your seat warming, which only turns on when the car is turned on. And so I tapped that from the fuse box, put an extra fuse in it, and then run a cable behind the dashboard to made like a USB to power splitter, and then Yeah, it works. So it only gets charged when I turn on the car, but it only drains when I drive. So it levels each other.
Yeah.
That's
really nice.
Well, there's something else I'll have to add to the list of things to add on.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's pretty cool. So we made last summer we went to France and we both, so his car is a convertible as well. So we went there with 2 cars. My mom and dad is in his car, and me and my girlfriend in my car, or our car. And the fun thing is we could every day we drove like 200 and 300 kilometers. We could look into the app what we have driven and how long it took. And
that's cool.
It's just. I don't do anything with it, but I like data, so
yeah,
I just want to look at it.
Or then you can put something into like Grafana or something, and you can have like a world map of where your car's been, right? Like you just tick off places. Yeah,
but you can export those from Tracker as well. You can just say, okay, what did I do? What did this GPS tracker do yesterday? And then it shows a whole line through where you've been driving.
That's cool.
Interesting. That's really cool. If you need any inspiration or any ideas or stuff, there's an open source project called Tesla Mate, which basically does that for Tesla. Because again, it's built in, right? So there's a lot of the stuff that gets pulled. But they've actually done that and visualized it in Grafana, so you can get like a map of where you're going or where all you've been, and then obviously a little more specific things like projected range and things like that. But you can, based on that, you can start inferring and building little graphs to say, hey, this is what it'll look like, or building a map to say, hey, this is potentially what stuff is like. So it's cool. Actually pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's pretty sick. I want to do that with the data. So the map, I already have the map, but now I need to put in the data. But that's it, right? So hopefully you can pull some of those kind of stats too, and actually map it out. So and do your own DIY version of this. Yeah, very cool. I'll be looking into that. Thanks. Yeah. Very cool. It is pretty neat. So are you doing any? I know you said you kind of built a dashboard. You've kind of done a lot of that kind of thing. What are you doing with the data in terms of Home Assistant knowing about it? So it's still a work in progress, but I'm currently working on you can. I don't know what the sensor it's called, but you can look when something is coming closer by, like GPS. You can see when you can see it's going nearer to your home, for example. Yeah, and so I'm going to because I work a lot from my car. I'm a salesperson, so I drive through the whole Netherlands. So I always come from a different direction to homes, and I want to start using that information for my, for example, for my automations within home, like heat or lights, etc. Yeah,
so I think Nest have that, or that was one of their selling points, or maybe it was the Icade or something, that as you're getting close to home, it would then turn the heat or the AC on, to cool the house down before you get home. Yeah. So like a Next, it's called the proximity sensor in Home Assistant. So you can do arrive towards, away from, unknown, etc. So I'm using those, but it's not working like I want it to work yet. So sure, but that's the whole thing about Home Assistant. I do like the progress. So sometimes it takes a lot longer just to learn everything about how this proximity works, how the zone works, etc. Yeah. There's a bit of banging your head until you get it, and then when you get it, you're good. Yeah. So it's the most satisfying thing. Yeah. So the next step for me and for my dad is we're going to rent a space where we can work on the car, and we can store it there as well. So, but that's not near my house and not near his house. So what I want to do is make a mini Home Assistant installation there with, for example, the Motion Eye integration or Motion Eye add-on to add cameras, so we can look at the car and we can use Tracker again. And then I want to, for example, use that same type of proximity automation for if the GPS tracker drives away, I want to get a message on my phone, and he wants to get a message on the phone, unless we're near the car, for example. Right. So if someone else has started to drive the car, you want to be alerted, but you don't necessarily want to be alerted that, you've stolen your own car.
Yeah. Or my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that is really interesting. That's actually a really I like how unique the use case is and what you're building around that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I guess, and then bringing it back to the home. So around the house, you started with Philips Hue. What have you branched out to?
So all lights are automated. I have a lot of automations through motion sensors. So like I use the Combi and Foscon app to use Zigbee motion sensors and door sensors. So when we open doors, lights turn on. Or for example, if we walk through the living room at night, it just barely uses some small lights just to give some visual light. And we use Kodi, Chromecast, all those stuff to see Netflix and I also look at those states to, for example, dim the lights depending on what we're watching. You're watching Netflix, okay, that should be a movie, so change the scene from a normal to a movie scene, and even with the Kodi add-on, when I pause the movie, it automatically ups the light again to like 80%. So that's
one of the cool factor automations, right? Like hit the pause button and the lights come up like a movie theater. You're like, yeah, this is sweet.
That's my show off automation. First time people come here, that's the one I show them first.
That's funny.
Yeah. So and another automation is when I bought this house, this apartment, the former owners, they cut out the wires for the doorbell, so they use this cheap ass RF like radio frequency
like a wireless doorbell.
Yeah. So and it was like a frequency I couldn't even read with a Raspberry and the RF sensor. So what I did, I changed it for a Zigbee doorbell, or it's like the Zigbee button, and when it gets pressed, I get a notification on my phone, and my Sonos devices give a doorbell sound, and it sends me a picture of the camera I installed next to the front door on my Apple Watch or on my phone.
Ah, nice. So did you use a special outdoor Zigbee button to do that, or anything that looks like a doorbell specifically, or did you just find a decent looking?
No, it's the simple Xiaomi round doorbell with the Xiaomi logo on top of it. It endured the rain for a couple of months, and I didn't have to change it, so it's pretty weather sealed, I think.
That's cool.
That's neat.
Because I'm always like, I want something that looks like a doorbell, right? Like you don't want someone thinking that they're going to flick on a light and not ring the doorbell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is they do knock the door a lot because it's still a white button, and so I was thinking about like for example just stamping a bell icon on it or spray painting a bell icon on it.
That's a good idea.
Make a small template and just do that.
Even like a little bell sticker or something, like a little transparent sticker or something that might work too.
Yeah. So and NFC tags near the bed to automate like going to bed automation and
nice.
That's that. And next to the automations, I do like to I use a lot of add-ons, not specifically to utilize them, but I just like to learn stuff like Grafana. It was really hard for me to get good graphs, and now I know how it works, and I can do cool stuff with it. So just to learn more and more and more.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Are you doing presence in any way? Like I'm here, I'm not, whatever. Based on, whether the mobile app, the car, I guess the car is its own presence in this case, right?
But it's also its own device because my girlfriend can take the car, my dad can take the car. So
yes,
I used to, first I started with the iPhone app, the companion app, and but it drained my battery a lot, and I don't really want to know where I'm outside. I just want to know if I'm home or not. So I downloaded or I installed a custom component through the Hacks, the HACS.
The community store.
Yeah, the community store. It was like a special way of discovering iOS devices because they go in a sleep state on the Wi-Fi and the normal pinging doesn't work. Yeah. So that worked for a while, but then other Hex integration started bugging my installation. So I quit Hex, and now I'm still searching for the best solution. I tried Bluetooth tracking with the Raspberry Pi and BLE, searching for the BLE on my phone. But the problem is, I live in an apartment. I have like 9 other flats around me. They all have Wi-Fi 2.4, 5 gigahertz. Bluetooth is 2.4. Zigbee is 2.4.
So it's noisy.
Yes, very noisy.
Have you? I don't know what. So, because my wife has an iPhone, the easiest way I've been able to do it is I use an ASUS router, and that detects who is connected to the Wi-Fi network. And generally, like, her phone stays connected long enough that she's always marked as home. Have you got is your router set up that you can do something similar?
Yeah, I looked into the Unify access point integration. Yep. So that worked for I used it to import it, but the problem is maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it's importing everything, and I have like 30, 40 devices on it as on the SSD. So in that way, it's
gets a bit noisy.
I deleted it just because I didn't have the time then to look further into it.
Yeah. Interesting.
You guys, so you're using the Asus router?
Yeah, I find it perfect. Like, as soon as you connect a device, once again, it brings everything in, which I don't necessarily mind. So I use the device trackers as to know if, for example, a Sonos speaker has lost connection to the Wi-Fi, or if I've unplugged an Echo Show somewhere or something like that. So I can give it, I use another template sensor to then extract out if this device is marked as not home, it's not connected to the network, so therefore there's a problem with it, right? So that way, if, I accidentally knocked out a blind controller that connects to the Wi-Fi, Home Assistant can then send me a notification to say, hey, the blind in the living room is offline, go plug it back in.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I can look into that, because that's something I'm not doing currently. If it's going offline, most of the time it doesn't work because I forget to plug it in or...
Yeah, exactly, right. And then you get the customer support tickets come through. Why didn't this work last night, right?
Yeah. So it happened last week. So I bought a Roborock S5 Max robot vacuum, and we're big fans of it now. So even my girlfriend likes it a lot because it does what it does very good. But in our bedroom, I have a Google Home Mini, or the Google Nest Mini, the newer one, and it's plugged into like a power brick next to my bed. But the thing is, the cable is a bit too short. So if I want to have the robot vacuum, I need to pick up my the little desk next to my bed, and I need to unplug the Google Home. And sometimes I put back the desk, and then I forget to plug in the Google Home, and I can hear my girlfriend in the bedroom saying, "Okay, Google." Oh, sorry,
it's not working. Oh no,
it's not working.
That's right. And then boom, as Phil put it, the ticket comes in.
Ticket comes in. Yeah. Need to stop what I'm doing and fix that.
It's a critical ticket, right? Like get that sorted.
That's funny.
But that's also why I like the connection to the ASUS router. It's just Home Assistant connects straight into the ASUS, so it just from Home Assistant's perspective, it's just doing one call to the ASUS, tell me what's on the network, as opposed to like ping and Bluetooth and all that, where it's sending out all this traffic over the wireless to work out which devices it can see. Yeah. So I think from a resources perspective, it makes sense to sort of outsource the state of a connected status to the router, as opposed to Home Assistant having to check each individual device if it can see it on a scanner somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds pretty obvious. I'm going to after we're done, I'm going to check the integration. But the thing is, I want to do that, but I have a Unify access point, but I'm using a pfSense router, so I only can see my wireless devices through the Unify router.
Right.
But I also want to check some other stuff, because, for example, all my Chromecasts are wired in, so I use those USB to UTP splitters. And those go offline sometimes, and I want to see if they changed from wired to a Wi-Fi connection, and then I want to remotely reset for example, smart plug that's connected to the brick. So when you reboot them, they automatically go back to a wired state.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. So from an automations perspective, I know you mentioned you have your TV scenes and things like that. Any other cool ones you want to talk about?
Well, yeah. So yeah, the doorbell, depending, it's sounds easy, but it's a bit more complex. It depends on where I am, if I'm home, if who's home, which sound it plays, and if it shows me on my phone or not. So that's just like using the automation editor or the YAML configuration for the automations. And so that's my most how do you say it, most complex one. Yeah, complex. Yeah.
So on the doorbell, so you said you live in an apartment. So does your apartment have access to the street, or do they have? So I used to live in an apartment, and the doorbell would be, like a communal doorbell that, would be where the street is, and you would have to buzz the number of the apartment that you wanted to get to. Or do you have street access where if they want to get to your apartment, they can just go up to your front door and knock on the door?
No, so it's like an apartment with a centralized entrance, and there you can press the button to get my phone on the wall ringing.
Yes,
but I also have like a doorbell on the front door here. That's the Xiaomi one. So for example, we have a service here that brings groceries. It's called Picnic, and when they have multiple people to deliver in this flat, they only press the first one they deliver, and after that they just go through the flat and they don't press the button on the downstairs.
That makes perfect sense. And have you integrated your phone on the wall in any way?
No, that's on my to-do list. I really want to do that, but I haven't done that yet. So. I did open it and I did look at the wiring, and I think I know what to do. But then the thing is, if I mess it up, I don't know how to fix it.
Exactly. That was the risk. I wanted to do the same thing, and I was only renting in the apartment. I thought, if I stuff this up, it's going to be an awkward phone call to the real estate agent saying that this doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, so that's the thing. But actually, we're not going to stay here for more than 3 years. They want to move to a normal, like a property house with a lawn, etc. So actually, everything I'm currently doing is learning. Even some automations I don't use, but I'm already planning for my next house. So to just when I'm there, I can do everything I want to do.
Yeah, make sure you write them down, because I get so many inspirations for ideas, and then I think, oh, what was that idea I had in the shower yesterday? Damn,
I do. I have like this Microsoft To Do app. I have it on my phone and my desktop, and it's filled with IDs. And then I have this like shadow YAML configuration. That's where I already built them.
Wow.
Pre-build the configuration for your next house.
Yeah. So I hope I can just start it there. And I moved away from the Raspberry Pi. I'm currently just using a server with Proxmox and running a VM with Docker and all that kind of stuff and all the add-ons, etc. And when I want to migrate, I want to do more with like cameras and that kind of stuff. So then you can integrate all that into Home Assistant.
That's awesome. Yeah, the problem is doing the configs and stuff are easy, but it's actually like, okay, great, now I need to go install cameras. Now I need to go do whatever.
Yeah.
That's where it all falls apart, at least for me, just because that's when it's like again, I've been saying for I think like 4 years now, I'm like, I'm going to put cameras up this year. Yeah, it hasn't happened.
Nah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm planning now. So now I know all the pitfalls, and then when I buy the house, I just can go in and start drilling cable ducts. Yeah,
that's funny.
That's cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's the tracker thing. If Phil, for example, if you want to know more about them or the trackers, I can send you the type.
If you can send me even if you've got like the model number or something, I'll put a link in the show notes. So if anyone wants to get the same model number from AliExpress, they can do that.
Yeah,
awesome.
You guys running like on Docker, right? Yeah. So what do you think about the latest? Well, it's been a while, but the change from like supporting just not everything, but a couple of types of ways of installation.
So you're referring to, I think previously there was the ability to install the Home Assistant supervisor, or the Hacktoberfest supervisor, where you could then install add-ons, etc., through the generic Linux installation. Is that what you mean there?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know about you, Rohan, but I have only ever used the Hacktoberfest add-ons when using it through a Pi. I've run 3 instances of Home Assistant all through Docker, but I've never done them through that generic Hacktoberfest installer. So to me, it wasn't a big loss. I was actually, and I think I said to Rohan like a week or two before, I was like, that's it, I'm installing a new server, I'm going to do it properly, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do that generic installer so I can finally use these Hacktoberfest add-ons. And then I think they sent the announcement out saying that they were deprecating that installation method. It makes sense to me. I get it. Like, there's a lot of features that it does. I know they have backtracked though, and I think it's not officially supported anymore, but you can, the instructions are still there. They are allowing you to do it. So for me, I've always found that, running through Docker, I only need Home Assistant Core. I don't need the add-ons. If I'm going to run Grafana or anything like that, I'm just going to run it. Like, I'm just going to download the official Grafana image, or I've even got my own custom Influx Grafana image on Docker Hub. So for me, it wasn't a big issue. I don't know about you, Rohan. Did you?
Yeah, I did muck around with the what's it called, the custom installation for Home Assistant Supervisor as IO. It was definitely more complex than just doing the standard install. And so first I started with when I decided I want to move all of my devices off of SmartThings and onto my own Zigbee, Z-Wave, whatever hub, based on Raspberry Pi. I actually started with HasOS, and that one, when something went wrong and I forget what it was, and I basically was like, all right, I'm done with this, because basically I had no idea how to do anything with HasOS, and that's entirely a me thing, right? Just because it was a foreign
it was new
operating system, whatever, right? So then from there I said, okay, you know what? Let me do my own supervised install. And I had, and it worked okay. It was a bit of a pain getting set up initially, and then it was fine. But since I've kind of gotten rid of that and just collapsed everything down into my one Home Assistant instance, which is just running on a CentOS with standard Docker. So it's not supervised. It's not any of that. It's just straight up Docker. Yeah. So I've kind of gone through the evolution of everything and kind of going full circle back to just standard Docker, which I've always had, and it's always been, I'm going to say, close to 100% reliable. And famous last words, because guaranteed tonight something's going to happen and it's not going to work. But with that said, that's been very stable for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm running currently on a Ubuntu VM, and it's supervised. It does, it's like more the old SIO installation, like with the Docker containers, etc. But since one of the recent versions, it's showing me like in red letters, you are running an unsupported installation. Learn more, and then So, but the thing is, when I started, I didn't know anything about Docker and Linux, etc. So now I do know how to maintain it, but it is. I think I do understand it, but I'm glad they changed their opinion from like where they first said we're going to sync it all, and now they have the possibility to, you can do it, but you need to support it yourself if you're doing an unsupported installation.
I guess it's a problem, right? Like a lot of those add-ons that Frank, he's the App Store, right? So a lot of those add-ons are, they're tested to run against the hardware, the Raspberry Pi and all that. So for me, I don't like that there's a lot of control taken away from those Docker images. Like, if I want to run, my own Grafana extension, I want to know where the data's going. I want to, be able to upgrade its version on my terms, as opposed to, some locked down UI. So I get the one-click install. It sounds appealing until you want to step outside and do something a little bit more tricky, and you realize, okay, that convenience has now cost me, the ability not to be able to install custom Docker images or anything like that.
Yeah, but that's why I think, because we're working to 0.1, like 1.0. It needs to be. There must be a easy version to onboard, because if that wasn't there when I started back when like 0.51 was there, like SAO, it was the easy version. I didn't know anything. Now I can do it because I spent 95% of my free time learning Linux and all that stuff, but and Docker. But I've got smarter thanks to Home Assistant, not even in home automation, but just because I want to explore the world around it, and I want to do it myself. The same reason you're saying I want to, if I want to spin up another container next to the host on the same host, I want to do that. For example, I want to so I can do that.
Yeah. So I think that the technology choice for going Docker containers and all that for Hacktober works great. Like, I can see it from both sides. Yes, I want the ability to do it on a custom Linux install, but I don't want, I can see from a 1.0 point perspective, if, I can go in with any Linux computer, install Hacktober, and they've promised me all these add-ons and it doesn't work because I'm running on some computer built in the 90s that, doesn't work. Like that. You can't have that as a 1.0 feature, right? Like for the public, you would get too many complaints. So I think I don't know. I'm quite. I think as long as they're not forcing people to remove their installations, like if they're just showing that red message, you're running an unsupported version, I think that's acceptable. Just don't take people away from it. It's similar to what happened when Nabu Casa launched and they did the cloud stuff, right? Like the configurations with the Amazon Echo, Google Home didn't go anywhere. They would, the Nabu Casa just, added on to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But
you almost know what you're getting yourself into, right? It's which I kind of like it this way, actually. It's a little more in your face, going, hey, if something happens, that again, are there people that will support you? Sure, but it's not going to be officially supported.
Yeah. So you can go, because if you go on the forums, I bet I can ask any question that's bugging me, and someone will help me, because that's one of the best things about Home Assistant. Everybody wants to help, but you can avoid it if you want to, and that's the easy route.
Yeah, I think it's going to be don't expect the developers themselves to be like, okay, let me build this fix in for blah blah blah, right? I think it's going to be more of the community is going to be like, hey, sure, you can do it. This is how you're going to do it, right? Yeah. And that's the big delineation that I think before was misinterpreted, miscommunicated, whatever you want to call it, right? So I think it's use at your own risk, because I think the moral of that story, right, is can you use it? Absolutely. Right.
But because a lot of Home Assistant users, they are like how do you call it, nerds or IT guys, or so those.
Sure.
You should, and I think the most important part of that is the transparency from the team to let you know what's happening. So the same thing is I provide my own way of accessing Home Assistant. I don't use the Nabu Casa cloud, but I do pay because I like the way they made the Google integration easier. So that's it's
totally.
But they give me my own choice. I can never give a euro to Nabu Casa, and I can still do everything you can do with Nabu Casa. But for example, one of my friends, he's learning. Nabu Casa is the easiest way to give him a secure way of accessing Home Assistant from outside of his house. So it's also great that they give you options, as long as it's transparent, in my opinion.
And I think that's the key there, right? So I think they have thought through this, and I think that team has figured out, okay, based on this, let's design that model this way, right? So I think for me, I don't see anything glaringly wrong with it. I'm sure people would disagree with me.
I just think of the time saving, right? Like not having to set up SSL certificates and all that. Just so much easier.
I think for me, it's totally worth it, right? And it's a way for me to be like, okay, here, give back to that.
That's also
team for their time, right? So, but it's that's something I choose to do, like you said, Vinçon.
All right. Well, Vincent, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with us. I will definitely be looking into that tracker stuff thanks to your recommendations. So you've definitely sparked some interest there for me. We'll leave links to all that stuff in the show notes as well. But thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@hasspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics that we discussed today, check out our show notes on hasspodcast.io.